Welcome to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Circle.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. I'm your host, Riha, and today we're exploring a question every leader is asking right now. What skills will keep you relevant tomorrow? Now, think about it. Technology is racing ahead, teams are becoming more dynamic than ever, expectations are equally shifting fast. So, how do leaders stay credible, decisive, and human throughout all the changes? To help us unpack that, I'm joined by Shubhra Singh, Head HRBP Global Business at Sonata Software. Welcome to the show, Shubhra. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Riha. Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much.
We are equally delighted. Okay, so to kick things off, can you briefly take us through your professional journey so far? I mean, our listeners and I are eager to learn about your journey.
Sure. Thank you, Riha. I'm not sure how eager people would be, but I am going to take your word for that. So, Riha, as you've already mentioned in my introduction, I'm currently working with Sonata Software, and you have caught me at a great time because I am in the process of shifting into a different role as well.
Okay.
The details, of course, I can't share right now because we are yet to make that public.
Okay.
But it's an absolutely exciting journey for me over here, where I've been heading HR business partnering for quite some time. I have also been part of the change management and leadership development initiatives over here. Have worked on quite a few innovative projects, and it has been a fabulous journey, specifically with respect to succession planning, figuring out how to create the talent pipeline, and what exactly do the leaders actually need as we move forward. Prior to this, I have worked in multiple industries. I have also been in consulting, and I worked in a boutique consulting firm known as MXV Consulting. And one of the most enriching experiences of my life was there because closely got to work with business, and it went beyond the typical expectations of HR. And I think for me, also one of the recent experiences which I had was one of my clients came back to me after more than 5 years. I left that organization more than 5 years ago, and yet they come back and if they have queries about the initiatives that were started at the time when I was there. So quite an enriching experience, and I must say that the people relationships that I've built along the journey have been tremendous. So yeah, that's it about me, Priya.
Okay, so that's a very interesting and inspiring venture, Shubhra. Thank you for sharing your experience.
My
Now,
pleasure.
with your
Thank you.
permission, I would like to delve into our topic further. Shall we?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. So, when organizations set business goals, what's the very first step HR leaders should take to translate these goals into a talent strategy? What do you think?
Okay. Thank you for that. And I guess the very first step that they need to take is be a part of, the business goals getting created. HR should not be separate from business at all. And I think we've been saying that for quite some time. But yeah, there are still those gaps to be addressed. But beyond that, and I get why you're asking this question, once the business goals are formulated, you have to ensure that the talent strategy is in line with the organizational objectives. And I feel that over here, one of the most important things that the HR leaders need to do is not operate in silos, rather have a two-way communication with the business leaders, a very strategic, collaborative, immersive approach is needed. And while these words might sound a bit too jargonish, but in very simple words, talk to the business, understand what is it that they intend to do and why is it that they intend to do. Just as a simple example, when any business goal is taking shape, assuming the company wants to expand into a new market or expand its market coverage by 15%, right? The first thing that the HR leader needs to ask is, what geographies are we going to get into? What are the skill sets that will be required? Are there certain cultural nuances that will be needed? Is there some language specific requirements which will be there? And based on this, the first thing that, once these answers are sought, that is when the HR leaders need to figure out what will be the talent strategy. Also, if innovation is one of the business goals, then what exactly are the skill sets that are needed with respect to innovation? What is the kind of mindset that we are looking at? And based on that, then the learning modules need to take shape. So only when the why of the business goals is understood clearly can a talent strategy, even start taking shape. Of course, once we have figured out what are the talent-related implications, that is when the next steps of identifying the competencies or the capabilities come up. Internal assessment happens, which is the internal talent audit. The gaps are identified, and then subsequently programs are put in place, and thus the entire talent strategy takes shape. So yeah, that's what I think. First, be involved in the business goals, and second, figure out the why.
That is a great understanding you've given here, Shubhra. I really like the point how you focused on the basics, like how to be involved in the business goals and to know the why of the business goals. Like that is a must, right? Those are like the foundation with which you can focus on, and how you mentioned about the emphasis on innovation and skill sets. These are some important factors that we need to keep in mind. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Uh, what are some of the early warning signs that a talent strategy and business goals are out of sync? When they're out of sync, what do you think?
Oh, well, I think one of the first warning sign would be if the HR leader is not consulted, or is just asked to execute whatever is the strategy. And that would be the biggest warning sign if the HR is perceived just as someone who would be executing, or more from an administrative lens.
Yes.
Beyond that, I think, Riha, one of the things which almost every organization, and currently I am in IT services at this point, and we're really struggling with it, which is the high turnover, right? And it is, you would have heard once the quarterly results were announced of most of the organizations. This year has been a painful year for almost everyone in the IT sector. And specifically, coming back to the early warning sign, if there is a high turnover, and that too of the top talent, it is a clear indication that the talent strategy and business goals are not in sync. Because if we are not able to cater to the top talent of the organization, or the high potentials, which they're typically known as, it clearly means that the business is moving in one direction, talent in the other, and they are not really working in tandem. The other thing also, when for organizations specifically, if the number of business critical positions, if a lot of those go unfilled, or there's a long time taken to fill those up, that also is a clear indication that the business goals have probably either not been articulated well, or have not been understood that well, because that is where it would be a clear indication that we have not been able to get the right people for the business critical positions. Another early warning sign, I think, would be if the rate of external hiring is way higher than the rate at which the business is growing. Again, kind of related to the previous point, wherein we have not been able to develop our people internally, and because of which we had to go extensively to the outside market and hire people, because again, the business objectives need to be met. And this has another implication of course, the costs going way higher, right? So this impacts that as well. So I think these three, four things. One, if the HR is given more of a transactional role, the second being very high turnover of the top talent, business critical positions going unfilled, and the rate of external hiring being higher than the rate of growth of the business. I think these are clear indicators that the talent strategy is not in sync and it is a cause for alarm.
I mean, you have highlighted some very important or significant warning signs here that the organizations should really pay heed to, about how HR role is limited to only being consulted and not transactional. So that really needs to change, I suppose. And about the high turnover that you mentioned, that is something to look out for. About the business critical positions not being filled, and the rate of external hiring getting more and more. So, I mean, these are some important factors that organizations should really look into, right?
Absolutely,
Or it's too
absolutely.
late.
They need to. Yeah, true, true. And, interestingly, most of my conversations with my peers and colleagues in the HR fraternity and the business community as well, these are the things which I guess are understood very clearly. The gap, unfortunately, is between the understanding and the actual action being taken. And I
Absolutely.
wish that happens sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Yes.
Otherwise, it's going to be a very difficult, scenario. And especially with the rate at which things are changing these days,
Yes.
people can't afford to delay for anything.
Exactly. That's true. Well said.
Yeah.
Okay, moving ahead. What metrics or indicators should HR really keep an eye on to know if their talent strategy is truly driving the business successes?
Very good. Again, and thank you, Riha, for these questions because these are quite interconnected questions.
Yes.
With respect to the metrics, again, from a typical way of looking at metrics, one would be the business metrics that the HR leader needs to look at, and then there would also be the people metrics or the HR metrics which are there. First and foremost is going to be the revenue per employee or the productivity index of each employee in the organization. Clearly indicates whether we are getting the right amount based on the investments that are being made in the people. If that is not there, also if your client delight index is going low, that is also a clear indication that we haven't been able to cater to the people. So productivity, client delight index, these are two very critical business metrics to be kept in mind. Beyond that, from an HR standpoint, I think I can say what I'd mentioned earlier, the turnover, and especially that of the top talent or the high potential talent, if that is a metric to be looked at. The other one I feel would be the typical time to hire. Right? If again that is a very long time, again that is an indication of things not being in right, and hence people, the HR leaders, always need to keep an eye for that. Internal movements, what a lot of organizations call it internal mobility or job rotations,
Yes.
and the rate at which we are promoting people internally. Very, very important because that is a clear indication of the understanding which the HR leader has of how things are scaling up, what are the kind of people we need for those roles, and whether we are able to move people around and promote them at the right time. And then the other one, I think, and this is my personal favorite, I feel, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. I know that a lot of organizations, while we talk about it quite often, but haven't given it its due. And especially with things having changed in the American market, and the focus has reduced quite a bit after the new government came in. But I still feel that tracking DEI metrics, it shows how agile the organization is and how equitable it is, which in the long run, for any organization to be sustainable and successful, it is very important to track those. So, Riha, these are a couple of metrics. I know it might sound a lot, uh, but on a regular basis, if the HR leaders keep track of these, of course, there are gazillion others. You know, if you look at just a Google search of which HR metrics or which people metrics do we need to track, you might get 30, 40. But these are the primary ones, is what I feel. I would welcome if someone else shares some more with me, but for now, I think this should be it.
These are some crucial metrics, Shubhra, that you've mentioned, the business metrics and the HR metrics. And apart from these, I feel the one that you mentioned about DEI, which is the need of the hour these days, it's not optional anymore and people should include, right? This is something, it stands out from the rest of the metrics.
Correct, right. It does. I really hope organizations give it that importance. There was a time when DEI was at the helm of all the metrics that our organizations were tracking, and then it has gone down a bit.
Yes.
Now it is more transactional, more with respect to numbers. But I'm not sure that is it. There's a lot more to DEI than we have even thought of capturing. So yeah, but hopefully we'll move there.
Yes. Okay, so going ahead, what are some practical ways, Shubhra, you think that to engage business leaders so that they see talent strategy as a growth driver rather than just an HR function?
Oh, very interesting. And here, Riha, once again, I have to say this, and I'm sure business leaders are going to be listening to this, they will, or even the HR leaders for that matter, they will resonate with all these questions because we struggle with these day in and day out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of the most important things, and which at times I feel the HR leaders fail to do very well, is include the business leaders, bring them together. The need for breaking out of silos for anything and everything that we do is very important. And specifically with respect to driving talent strategy, it is extremely important. Because talent is going to be the only differentiator as we move forward. See, the tools, technologies, more or less everyone will adopt those in one time or the other. But if we are able to involve the business leaders, ensure that they co-create the talent strategy, not that we create something and then say, okay, this is for you to follow and execute. Rather, get their buy-in, ensure that they believe in this, the approach which will help their business grow. The other thing beyond that is piloting specific talent initiatives in one or two business units of function. This personally, Riha, have seen have a tremendous impact. And for one of my key businesses, and because I used to work very closely with them, I was able to implement a lot of initiatives. And since that was also the largest business unit for us, the success or the failure gave us so many learnings that beyond that we were able to just cascade things very easily or make the required changes and then spread it across the organization. So involvement, piloting would be another. The third thing I feel, and again coming from my experiences, creating interdepartmental or inter-BU groups or projects which people can work on. Like I'll give you a simple example. We conducted a hackathon. It was a 24-hour hackathon. And one of the prerequisites that we had mentioned in that was that the teams that have to be formed have to be interdepartmental. Okay. They had to have people from pre-sales, from marketing, from HR, the technology team, of course, and some architects as well. And the amount, while initially there were apprehensions that how can people find so many other people across different departments, but that's where these heads or these business leaders from different units got together and they enabled their people to figure out, helped them in creating the teams, came up with mentors on their own. So there was a lot of traction that we saw just by ensuring that things are more collaborative, things are more interdepartmental. it again works wonders, Riha, I feel.
Yep.
And I think one more I would like to say is showcasing the success stories. We talk about those success stories in some shape or form, but do we translate any talent success story into a direct business impact? Like we might show that X person has grown phenomenally in their journey, but do we also correlate that with what has been the business impact of that person's growth for the respective business unit and invariably for the organization? That again, if we're able to show it to the business leaders, I believe we'll have complete buy-in from them. And final thing, Riha, and this is because I feel a lot for the business leaders, they do not get enough of rewards and recognition. We expect them, we always expect leaders to go ahead and recognize others. Who thinks about recognizing those leaders, right? We might have a lot of those initiatives, but imagine if we create champions out of the leaders who are involved in the talent strategy or in co-creating talent development initiatives. Won't we achieve more than half of our goals? Because their peers would then feel that, okay, let me also grab this opportunity. So yeah, these are some of the ways. And Riha, at the end, I feel we need to understand that the leaders, the business leaders, are also human.
Yes.
Treat them at that level. Don't always expect them to be the superheroes or the those people who have to deliver it all. Uh, do things for them the way it would be done for other people in the organization. And I think the HR leaders will be able to do it, create or co-create the talent strategies very easily then.
Shubhra, I really like how you presented your unique perspectives on these practical ways for our leadership. And particularly, I liked how you mentioned about, the need for breaking out of silos and becoming more inclusive, about becoming more collaborative, showcasing success story, and how leaders should also be given the chance to be recognized, to be rewarded. And the very thing that stood out is that leaders are also human. So they need to be taken into account. Like leaders should also be understood. Okay, like people should understand their perspective and take those into account and treat them equally. I feel like this is something it stood out. I like
Yeah,
means
yeah,
hardly people talk about what leaders go through, right? So they
yeah.
have their own struggles and pains.
Oh, tell me about it. And everyone who keeps scaling up in their lives and in their journeys, they will know how lonely it gets as people scale
Absolutely.
up, right? And I know
Absolutely.
this is again, it's a lonely journey. People will talk about that, but experiencing it is something very different. And this
Absolutely.
is where the HR function and the HR leaders again, while they of course they also need to be treated like that, but they have some phenomenal capability of transforming organizations. Because not just for the rest of the organization, but for the top rungs, they can bring about the difference, which will ensure that the company keeps growing, keeps moving forward while taking care of its people. That the element of care, Ria, is going to be extremely important. It has been true forever, but it is going to be more true now
Yes.
because
So true.
it is not going to be easy as we move forward. We'll be dealing more with tools and applications, and
Yes.
at that time, keeping things human will be critical.
Absolutely. Well said, Shubhra.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking ahead, what trends do you see, Shubhra, that is shaping the future of talent strategies and that will stay tightly aligned with business goals?
Um, I don't know if I need to look ahead for that. Again, and this is one thing, Priya, I have often discussed with people that things have not changed much. The facts have still remained facts.
Yes.
Those haven't undergone a dramatic shift. Like we have
Yes.
always spoken about being more data driven, right? Let us take decisions based on data. It's the same. It's just that added nuance of AI which has been added to it. So
Yes.
now I think, and it's true now. when I say based on your question, while it'll become more true as we move forward, but it is equally true today as well. And being a bit more data driven, unfortunately, even today, Rian, and I can't tell you how much it hurts me that people still think that the HR function is not data centric. The cliched role that an HR has, I think it's our prerogative, it is our responsibility to break out of that.
Yes.
And for that, we need to be on the bandwagon of AI and data analytics. Absolutely. That is one key trend that no one in the business, no one in HR can ignore anymore. And it's also very important to understand or create the right kind of talent strategy. Because we're moving into a world which is going to be hyper personalized, right? And that's another thing, hyper personalization. That's a very important trend. We have been speaking about it for a couple of years now, but I'm not sure if all the companies have understood how important it is. What will work for Riha might not work for Shubhra, right?
Absolutely.
And we need to ensure that if both of these people are important in the organization, we need to take care of them in the way that the kind of growth that you would want versus what I would want, and the company should provide for that, right? The other thing from a trend perspective, Riha, I feel it is going to be continuous learning. Again, I can't emphasize this enough, and I can't tell you how much we tell our leaders that they have to be role models in this.
Yes.
No one can survive now. It has literally become a matter of survival. That person who does not learn is going to become redundant so fast and just obsolete maybe in a couple of years.
Yes.
The shift is going to be phenomenal, right? So that is another thing. The third thing linked with learning is going to be agility. We can't delay decision making. We can't sit on a problem for long and then discuss, analyze, overanalyze, get into the analysis paralysis mode.
Yes.
Take action, get into the sprint mode. And I feel that after moving from a software development life cycle, when agile became the way all the software projects started getting delivered, agile way of working is also very important in every project, everything that we do at an organizational level. Always sprints, like I'd mentioned earlier, pilots, right? Get into the pilot mode and continuously keep improving. So that is, again, another thing that I feel. Coming back to my favorite of DEI, that again has to be an important trend. And I'm sure there is going to be a time when we will see how that, having diverse perspectives, having, a more inclusive organization, a more equitable organization is going to just skyrocket the growth for those companies who tap into this correctly. Right. So hopefully I'm still hoping, and there are a couple of companies, but this has to become a bit more common, I feel. And then the trend, I'm not sure if I can call this the trend, but more from an employee value proposition that needs to be created. Everyone, and specifically when we are talking about talent strategy, the articulation of an EVP is very, very important. More or less we are looking for, and if I'm in, if there are 5 companies in IT sector, right? All 5 companies are going to look for similar kind of talent, right? What is it that will ensure that, a rock star individual joins my company? It is only going to be based on this EVP. And if I am able to create that for my people, for the organization, and if people actually see that in reality, not just on paper or on my website, then I think there's a tremendous scope for a great talent strategy to be created, which will ensure sustainable growth for the company. So yeah, some of these trends, and again, there are going to be many more, Riha, I'm sure. Absolutely. But yeah, I guess I can stop here for now. Otherwise, we might just continue speaking on this. But yeah, these are some of the trends.
These are some amazing trends that you have mentioned, Shubhra, that is shaping the talent strategy. I really liked how you mentioned about HR being cliched, to this non-data centric role, and how it is very important that moving ahead, the data analytics or HR analytics should become the need of the hour, and how hyper personalization is also the need of the hour, continuous learning, and about DEI that we discussed earlier, and EVP. These are some essential trends. I mean, that all the people out there, the HRs out there, should be looking out, as you move forward to for shaping long-term goals. I mean, for the organizations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in this AI world, Riha, HR is going to have a very interesting role to play. And the sooner we realize that, the better it will be. Because
Definitely.
people in this function are going to be pivotal to
Yeah.
creating that USP for every organization, right?
Yes.
And just if it's like the make or break point or the make or break function is what I feel. So it's just one of the best times to be in this function. And the rate at which things are changing, we're experiencing it firsthand. And in every facet of HR, now we are able to see how data and AI can help us do a lot more than what we used to earlier. Earlier, it was more of instinctive, which I'm not negating that. It still remains, it will remain.
Yeah.
But now instinct coupled with data, and you get something, beautiful.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so Shubhra, so we have come to the end of our session. Okay, so before we wrap up, thank you so much, Shubhra, for joining us today and sharing such incredible insights. It's been more than a pleasure hearing your perspective on the significant skills that will keep leaders relevant tomorrow. We really appreciate your time and expertise, and I'm sure our listeners are heavily inspired by your expertise and are walking away with a wealth of information to ponder.
Thank you, Riha. Thank you so much. I really wish all that you said is true. You made it sound amazing. So thanks a ton for that. And I have to thank you. You kept this conversation very engaging.
Thank
I
you so
had
much.
initially thought that I'll probably cut it short, but I
Okay.
just enjoyed conversing with you. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you once again, Shubhra. That means a lot. And to our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. We hope you find today's conversation as enlightening and we did. Until next time, take care and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast YouTube channel for new episodes.